Yo, how we doing? Happy Monday. We go again. Hope you're ready for this. Welcome to show 391. Today we're going to be discussing self-pressure. We're going to dissect where does self-pressure come from. We're going to look at triggers. We're going to look at the reactions of those triggers. We're going to look at how we put ourselves under pressure. And then we're going to look at the consequences of that. Okay, sound good to you? Just make sure this mic's on. Good. Let's get on with it. Welcome to the Rise to Thrive show. I am your host, James Bourman, and if you are coming through, then please do let me know by hitting the love heart button, and in the comments what I want you to do is put whether you feel pressure. How do you handle self-pressure? Do you feel self-pressure? And then we get back into it. Mrs. is back today after 9 days. Whew. Thank goodness. Thank goodness, thank goodness. Morning guys, how are we doing? Hope everyone's really good. So if you're just coming through, we're going to be talking about dissecting self-pressure, the flow of what happens with self-pressure. What I'm looking for you guys to do in the comments is put whether you struggle with self-pressure, and what it is about self-pressure you struggle with. Okay, so this is something I'll quite happily open up and go, I sometimes struggle with, and I'm going to put two things here, two really standout things for me that cause that self-pressure. And obviously working with lots of different people, male and female, self-pressure is a real killer in terms of stress, anxiety and frustration, right? Do you feel that? Like, whenever you feel that self-pressure, it kind of like tightens the chest, you kind of feel like the weight of the world's on you. I do jiu-jitsu, so whenever someone's on me who's a big lad or really good at it, they can assert a huge amount of pressure onto me, and I'm like, oh my God, this feels like self-pressure. It's like a killer, torturer, right? Whoops. Cool, so let's get into it. So here are my two standout things where that self-pressure comes from. So comparison to other people, and not having a clear enough vision. There are many more other triggers, but we've only got limited time this morning. So for me, these are the big two for most people that I've spoken to or worked with, where self-pressure comes from, okay? And some of these elements are for my own as well. So if you recognize any of those two things causing you self-pressure, let me know in the comments, all right? Do you compare yourself? Does that put pressure on you? Not having a clear vision, does that put pressure on you? If there's any other words that you would best describe that does for you personally, stick it in the comments, all right? So what does that trigger? So the comparison, I've put 3 for each. Okay, we could go on, but we've only got limited time. There's a feeling of being left behind. And when you feel like you're being left behind in terms of when you're comparing other people, like you're looking at other people, you're seeing them progress, you're seeing them move forwards, you're seeing their results, and then you're kind of looking at yourself and going, why am I not doing that? Why am I not at that level? Why am I not progressing like that? Why have I not grown to that level? So what we then instantly do is put pressure on ourselves to then try and reach that standard. Now, the person that you're looking at, whether it's on social media, whether it's within a community, whether it's someone in your family, they could have been doing it another 6 years longer than you. They could be at chapter 750 where you're only at chapter 50, right? So you have to try and put some level of perspective on that. Feeling like you're not good enough. So again, with that comparisons, you see people doing all of these things, you instantly feel like you are not good enough. You're taking that look in the mirror and going, oh my God, why am I not there? And again, that heaps pressure on you. And it builds fraudulent expectations, because then what you start to do is build expectations based on the people that you're looking at or comparing at, who could have been, like I said, in this journey, in this game, a lot longer than you. So then we build those expectations that are not our own, at the standard that we're at, not at the place we're at within our lives. Okay, remember, we're all at different stages in our lives, we're all at different levels of our business, we're all at different levels of our career, all at different levels of our marriage, or dealing with trauma, whatever it might be. So we all have a different perspective on life. So we're all at different places. So when we look at social media, those communities, friends and families, and we're comparing ourselves, there are lots of considerations to take into factor. But we don't do that. And one of the reasons I wanted to bring it up is because you should do that. Because it's a journey. Your journey is about you and you alone. You and you alone. The minute you start comparing yourself, you go down this rat race of putting yourself under pressure to try and keep up. It's like me trying to keep up with Mo Farah, okay, on a half marathon. It simply is never going to happen. I then put myself under huge amounts of pressure trying to keep up with him and blow myself out. Does that make sense? Is that a good analogy? All right, so let's get into this second one. So not having a clear vision. Why would that put you under self-pressure? Okay, so right here, when there are no outcomes, when we're not clear on the vision and there are no outcomes, we kind of feel like we're not achieving because we don't know if we are achieving. We've got nothing to put it up against. So we are constantly going on this loop, okay, this cycle of going round in circles. I don't know, I haven't achieved anything. I don't feel like I've achieved anything. And because you haven't set anything to achieve and there are no outcomes to work towards, it's just a constant cycle or stirring of self-pressure, okay? You become blind to progression. You become blind to progression because you don't know what progression is, and because you don't feel like you're making progression, because you haven't set those checkpoints, those milestones, that heaps self-pressure on you. Okay, makes sense? You're like, oh my God, I'm not feeling progression. I've got to do more. I've got to do more. I've got to do more. It's like trying to please everybody, right? And then last one here is doing too much too soon, all or nothing. Because there's no plan, no vision, no blueprint, no steps, we feel like we've got to change everything overnight. We feel like we've got to completely consume ourselves in this environment, in this journey. We need outcomes, we need wins, we need direct results. It's the all or nothing mentality, and that then heaps huge amounts of pressure on ourselves. Make sense? Many people will feel that when they start a program with us. So when we do our Elite 28, or right now we're doing a program for the Get Up and Get Out 7-day campaign for new clients, for new people that haven't worked with us. Again, it's just going to be that huge weight. So how then does the pressure come on? So TEF, time, energy and focus. Because this time, energy and focus, right, because it's not, because we're all over the place, because we're not focused, we're spending too much time and too much energy focusing on the wrong thing. We're focusing on things that, this is where it comes in terms of business owners and career. We suddenly feel like we need to be successful, so we spend 80% of our time on the business or the career, and only 20% on ourselves, personal development and the family. And that's where that balance goes wrong, because there's lots of self-pressure as well as external pressure. Nothing's ever good enough, okay? So the byproduct of these here is that anything you do never feels like it's good enough. So because it's never good enough, it's like the dangling carrot. You're always working super hard. I've just got to keep going. I've just got to get a little bit more, okay? You become too harsh with your standards. Like I see a lot of guys beating themselves up all of the time. Like it's meant to be enjoyable. This process is not meant to be like you're not meant to be hard on yourself. You're meant to be growing every single day, a little bit, 1%, 15 minutes a day, right? People become too harsh with the standards. It's good to have those standards. It's good to have standards. It's good to have high standards. But sometimes, once in a while, you have to be able to show patience. You have to be able to conduct yourself in a way that goes, listen, today is just one of those days where it's not happening. So let's just get through it. We'll wake up the next day and we go again. Not beat yourself up and say, I'm a failure, I'm a loser, I'm just going to quit. I'm just going to, you know what I mean? And then managing these expectations. Okay, it's really important. So what ends up happening is that this then creates stress, anxiety and frustration. Okay, because we don't have control, we don't feel progression, we don't have certainty, we don't have those things in our life that we practice on a day-to-day basis, and those that work with me will know that they're the things we're constantly practicing on. Okay, so we become anxious, frustrated and stressed, and this is the things that it affects. It affects our communication with the people that we love the most. It affects our moods, our mood swings. It affects the outcomes, and then it affects those connections with the people that we love the most. So how do we ever stop self-pressure? Well, it's an awareness thing. So the reason that I'm doing this training right now is to make you more aware. It's a subject that you'll go away and hopefully think about during the day. What I want you to do in the comments is put your number one takeaway, and you take that number one takeaway and you go, right, I'm going to think about that every single morning on my morning routine. I'm going to think about that during the day. When you suddenly start feeling stressed or anxious or frustrated, you go, why am I feeling that? Oh my God, it's because I'm putting so much pressure on myself. And then suddenly you connect with the things that are causing the pressure, i.e. here. This is when you write them down. So you could have a pressure journal. You just write down in your journal, this is what triggered self-pressure today, whether it's comparison, whether it's like what I saw one of the lads writing there, trying to be the best parent, whether it's something to do professionally, something to do with your wife or your partner. So it's really, really important that you just recognise and catch it. So when you feel pressure, catch it. Why am I feeling pressure? I don't need to put myself under this pressure. And that's one of the things that I have to really do, is to kind of like catch it. I'm like, oh, I've got to do this. I've got to do that. I've got to get it done by a certain point. Do you? Like, do you really? And then you suddenly go down the path of thinking, do I need to do it right now? And actually, I don't. And actually put myself under huge amounts of pressure, and actually, I don't need to. And I think that's what's really important for you guys, right? You have to understand what works for you. Every single one's going to be different, because what you don't want to do is get to the very end of life and suddenly go, well, that was 72 years worth of pressure. Enjoy it. When we have self-pressure, we don't enjoy life. We don't enjoy it because we stay in this triage here, right, guys? All right, just enjoy the process. Take the pressure off a little bit and focus on those results. Focus on the small wins. Focus on the micro things, because you're probably not under any amount of pressure that you think you are. It's just that self-induced pressure all the time. Anyway, I hope this helps. If you haven't done anything, if you're not a client of ours and you haven't done one of our free programs in the last 3 months, you can come and join us on our Get Up, Get Out 7-day experience. Okay, it starts next Monday. It starts a week today. Applications, it's free. Applications are open, but they are limited. Okay, we don't want any tire kickers or time wasters. So if that's you, get yourself on the link, which I don't think I've added yet, which I'll add after this show, and get yourself on. See you soon.